over the years has come across some things you can't seem to put your finger on. Strange things. The strange thing amongst believers even, and people that you might have met over the years. Well, I've pondered these things, and then recently I came across a scripture. Well, I've seen it before, but it was brought back to my mind, and it's this word, strange children. So you might think to yourself, strange children. And so this was David speaking in the Psalms concerning strange children. And like me, you might have met people who are often talking about their spiritual experiences, and you've probably often wondered where these things came from in accordance with Scripture. And so I want to bring before you a reading from Psalm 144 and verse 7 to 8. And this is what we find here in Psalm 144 and verse 7. This is David, Psalm of David. Send thine hand from above, rid me and deliver me out of great waters, from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. And I thought, strange children. Well, when you think about these mystical experiences that some people have and claim to have had, and then you begin to study the history of the church, and specifically you study the history of the Roman Catholic Church, you'll find there was many medieval mystics who spoke about things that we do not read about in Scripture, and almost set themselves aside as being something far above the ordinary person, or indeed the ordinary believer. Now, when we get to the book of Hosea, this is also what we find in the book of Hosea. And the problem here seems to be getting worse. But we'll look at what was happening to the children of Israel, because the children of Israel were mixing with the pagan people round about, and they were entering into marriages with them, which was forbidden by the law of Moses, and specifically because of the worship of false gods. And this is Hosea, this is the Lord speaking through Hosea. They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord. And the pride of Israel doth testify to his face. Therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity. Judah also shall fall with them. They shall go with their flocks and with their herds to seek the Lord, but they shall not find him. He hath withdrawn himself from them. They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, for they have begotten strange children. Now shall a month devour them with their portions. So here we have that word again, strange children. Well, I believe in the context of the verses above, what we are seeing here is something horrible. That the men of the children of Israel have been mixing with these women, or indeed women Israelites, had been mixing with Canaanite men. But I'm more prone to think it was the men of Israel mixing with Canaanite women, particularly to do with temple prostitutes and idolatrous worship. And as a result of this terrible, horrible thing, then the children that were born were half Canaanite or half pagan and half Israeli. And then we see, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them. So this means that they were going into whoredoms, committing whoredom with other gods, and also sexual immorality. And we see as a result of that there was the birth of literal physical children. And I believe this is what David was talking about in the Psalms when he talked about being delivered from strange children. Not only children directly of Canaanites, but children that were mixed, a half breed. And so we see that they would have been speaking two languages. They would have known the language of the Hebrews and the language of the Canaanites. How amazing! How many know the language of the people of God and the language of paganism? You see, today what is happening is that many charismatics have been introduced to medieval mystics and mysticism. And I believe this is the spirit of whoredoms here, because if you study closely with Roman Catholic religion, you'll find that not only do they worship Mary, but they offer adoration to dead people, and they pray to dead people, which the scripture says is necromancy. They also have techniques of meditation very similar to Buddhism and Zen and other types of religion. And we find that being encouraged today in such things of centering prayer and contemplative prayer. And these are being introduced to charismatic believers. And people are practicing these things. And this is exactly what Israel was doing. They were committing whoredoms, and they had the spirit of whoredoms. So that's how the Lord looks at it. What a terrible, terrible description God gives to it, because it is an awful thing. But then as we go further on, we can always prove something to be true by using an Old Testament scripture and seeing the Old Testament scripture first, and then by going to the New Testament.